Now then, campers, I hope you are all going really, really well. I'm back. I am back and I'm bigger than ever. And I'm not just talking about the COVID kilos, my friends. It's Andy here, your professional human team. I've missed you. It's an absolute pleasure to be back in amongst it, having some fun with you guys. It's been a bit of a minute since I've been on these sort of live sessions and whatnot, but I wanted to get back in and amongst it, having had a few conversations with a few different people, a few different scenarios, both mentally and or spiritually or whatever the case may be, where they've sort of said to us that, things like this have been helping in one way, shape, or form. Whether it might even just be because you sort of make yourself feel a little bit better by, unfortunately, by seeing me and thinking, well, at least my life's not that bad. Maybe, I don't know, I don't care. We're going to have some fun with this series, though, team. This professional human series is going to be a lot more upfront, a lot more forthcoming in terms of what I believe, in terms of where I feel the real estate space, business space, life space could potentially get a bit of an upgrade or move forward in some way, shape, or form. Before I do kick off formally, though, I do want to thank the team at Anywhere Auctions for being kind enough to be a sponsor for these live streams. We're going to be doing them every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, 11 p.m. New Zealand, which makes it 7 p.m. over in Western Australia. The reason why, quite simply, is because I need to get the kids to bed, to be perfectly honest. And this is one of the main things about being a professional human, right? Is actually understanding, owning the realities of life. From my point of view, I can't commit unless I do it at a time like this, because otherwise the kids won't be in bed in time, and I can't commit to any other time. So I'm going to be here at 9 p.m. I know it's late. I know that some people are probably going to have a bit of an opinion on that, but ultimately, gang, if you want to be here, you'll be here, and if you don't, you can catch up with it afterwards. All right. So, team, it is so good to see you again. Thank you so much for joining us. I am amazing. Thank you for asking. And look, this is one tradition that I'm absolutely going to stick to from the last series. I'm going to firstly be asking everybody, how are you out of 10? Give us the scores on the doors in the comment section. Give us a rating as to how you're feeling, how you're traveling, how you're tracking, how your business is going, how your life is going, how your mind is going out of 10, please, my friends. Post it in the comment section. I'm keeping an eye on it so I can keep a track of how everybody is rocking and rolling. Team, how am I? I'm probably ticking on around about like a 7.9, which is pretty solid, right? Given, for those of you who don't know, I'm based in Melbourne, right? So we're in the lockdown state. We are the world's best at lockdown. So I'm trying to look at the positives of it all, setting a trend. So team, I'm hovering around about 7.9. The reason why I'm probably not into the 8s and maybe the 9s is something that I'm absolutely working on, which is my physical fitness. All right. Physical fitness. I didn't really make any excuses. I just got fat and I wasn't really asked about it, to be perfectly honest. Cameron, welcome, my friend. Good to see you again. Robbie Castro, lucky number 7, mate. Good to see you again, sir. Hope all is well. But I'm working on it. I'm back into it. One thing that I've committed on just over the last sort of week or so, with my mental fitness coach, my psychologist, my mental GP, that I speak to. I've been speaking to every single week because I just need to make sure that I stay on point. And I made the commitment to her that I needed to make sure that I brought in a couple of very minor habits. One, which is some degree, doesn't matter how long, how short that degree of physical exercise is, I've got to do some physical exercise. And then I've got to do one thing that expands my mind as well. So whether it's 5-minute sort of research on something, or a 20-minute research, or a bit of a note-taking session about a certain topic that's in my mind or whatever. The big thing is I'm not giving myself a sort of set time frame that I have to get it done. I have to, like, in terms of I have to do an hour of training or an hour of mental sort of work and sort of metacognition and all that sort of jazz. I've just got to do something. As long as I do something, then I'm not going to put myself under too much pressure. Rod, welcome, my friend. Mind 10 out of 10. Good to see, good to hear. Business 5 out of 10. Don't blame you being in the commercial space, mate. I mean, look, let's not beat around the bush. There's a lot of businesses that are in the shit. So you know, let's not fanny around with that. It is what it is. Now, one thing that I am going to do with the Professional Human series is I'm going to be making this series a COVID-free zone. All right. Now, what I mean by that, it's a COVID-free zone because I'm fucking bored of talking about it, to be honest. That's point one. Point two, I feel that there are enough anchors of negativity around it for me to need to beat that drum anymore. I mean, ultimately, we know, I know the issues and the concerns around it. So do you. You don't need it repeating by some daft pom like me, right? So we're not going to be talking about COVID directly during the Professional Human series. All right, team? I don't give a shit if anybody wants to. We're going to talk about topics that have come about as a result of COVID. So, like, tonight's episode is around the online auction space and the validity of it, whether it should exist after everything opens up, all that sort of jazz. But I'm not going to talk to anything to do with, what the government should do and, what we need to do and whether we need to get vaxxed or not vaxxed or any of that sort of bollocks, right? At the end of the day, you guys are individuals, make your own minds, make your own decisions. You don't need me influencing you one way or another. So this is a COVID-free space, my friends, and I hope you're okay with that. And if you're not, switch off because I don't really care. Anyway, Tim, how are things out of 10? I'm wanting to see some more things. Maxine G, lovely to see you, my dear. Lovely to see you. Personal 10 out of 10. Work 10 out of 10. Absolutely smashing it out the park. Great to hear. Amazing to hear. I know that you've made a change recently on the work side of things, and good for you. There's a lot of people at the minute that are fearful of making any sort of real drastic change in any way, shape, or form. And so it takes balls to make changes during all this sort of stuff. So fair play to you, Max. I'll tip my cap and I'll just have a little swig of my Top Gun coffee in sort of acknowledgement of that, gang. Like I said, this is going to be a little bit more upfront. There's going to be perhaps one or two bits that are a bit more confronting, maybe. One disclaimer that I will say is, and this is because of a person that I'm working with from I don't know, for want of a better word, like a PR type space. She busted me for apparently not being authentic enough, which I thought was really daft and really weird when she first said it. But upon reflection, I probably haven't been. Now, swearing is in my vernacular, gang. All right. Swearing is in my vernacular. I don't do it to make a point. I don't do it to like cause any stress. I don't do it to sort of make myself look cool or any of that sort of shit. Like, I've literally been swearing since I was 3 years old when I shouted at a car that cut my mum off. And from the back, my mum was driving and I was in the back, obviously. And all of a sudden, my mum heard a little Andy saying, "Get out the way, you bastard." So look, it's just part of my language. It's part of my sort of speak. It's part of how I rock and roll. Generally, I only tend to swear when I'm either having fun, taking the piss out of myself, or if I'm really, really passionate about something. So, gang, please don't take offense to my swearing. I don't do it to offend anyone. It's just how I roll. I'm not going to lie. It's how I roll around my kids. It's how I roll around my family. And I'm not going to make any excuses for it anymore, right? It's just me. It's how I am. It's who I am. I know the big words. I know, I've got a fairly decent sized vocabulary. But as Billy Connolly, the amazing, incredible comedian, once said, I know all the big words. It's just that the benefit of me is the fact that I know all the swear words as well. So I'm just going to rock and roll to how I see fit. And Tim, I hope you're okay with that. And again, if you're not, I'm just not going to make any excuses for it. All right. The bad words hurt me, Rob. Yeah, of course they do, mate. I changed to work with a boss that's more supportive and understanding. Changed my entire attitude. That's interesting. That's an interesting one, right? And that's something that, before we get into the topic of the night, that's something that is really sorting, sort of, for want of a better word, the men from the boys, the good from the bad, from a leadership point of view. It's a really interesting point you make there, Max, because there are the good leaders and the bad leaders are being exposed. It's like this whole situation is exposing everybody for who and what they actually are. And I'm going to talk about that when it comes to the online auctions as well, because I've got an opinion on that, a pretty strong one, around the standard of auctioneering online. But it's so true. Like urgent situations, dramatic situations, when the shit hits the fan, right, it does tend to expose you for who you are. Like the whole sink or swim thing, the whole thing of, when your back's to the wall, your real character comes out, right? And for a lot of leaders, they've really had their circuits fried by all of this sort of stuff. A lot of them don't like change in any way, shape or form. And therefore, they sort of take their eye off the ball when it comes to the leadership side of things, right? So I get that, mate. I really do get that. And you're not the only one that's made changes in this sort of way. And just so that everybody's aware, like a quick update from me, in terms of what I've been up to and all that sort of jazz. Like I've obviously in March took up a contract with Century 21, Better Homes and Gardens, Combine Franchise Services. So my good friend James Bell, who I want to publicly acknowledge, is an absolute rock star, and I'm so grateful for him, giving us the in to create this opportunity to work with the entire network across Australia and New Zealand. He's such a lad, and I've got so much to appreciate in terms of what he's done. I've been doing that since March the 1st, so looking after 200 odd offices in Australia. And we just started doing some work with the gang over in New Zealand as well. So it's been a really exciting challenge, and thank God one that I got, because being an auctioneer, in Melbourne, you're not going to get a load of work, right? Especially because you can't do any auctions. So I'm really, really super grateful for that. But it's been amazing because it's allowed me to truly connect with leaders, with salespeople, with property managers, with admin staff, in every single state and territory, and of course over in New Zealand as well, which has been a really enriching experience over the last few months. And dealing with them as we're going through a really rocketing time, and then obviously dealing with the curveballs that these latest sort of lockdowns have produced. It's been fascinating, and it's been something that has certainly helped me to evolve as a human, as a professional, and hopefully have brought a little bit of value to the networks as well. It's been amazing. I'm not going to even lie either. I know that some people, Charles Tarby does polarize opinions, with a lot of different people in a lot of different, worlds and fields and all the rest of it. As far as I'm concerned, the guy's a ledge. The guy is such a good bloke. And the really cool thing that I really like about Charles Tarby, and again, I'm going to go on record as saying this, is the fact that he treats good and bad in equal measure. Like, so if you're fucked up, then he calls you on it. But if you're brilliant, he calls you on that as well. And that's all you can ask from a leader, right? It really is all you can ask. And the really cool thing that both Charles and Frank Kinez, they've given me that sort of free reign to be who I am, which has really helped me to grow in this sort of, for the want of a better word, leadership sort of space, right? Apparently, I'm one of these people that you guys can sort of follow into battle, right? And I'm really proud of that. But it's certainly been helped by the leadership that's been shown to me by the likes of Charles Tarby. So it's been a really, really cool experience. Having said that, though, we've been doing lots of online. We have been doing a fair few online auctions recently. Lots of sort of guiding, coping, assisting sales teams in Melbourne, Sydney. But then at the same time, like I said, because I'm connected to the entire country now, we've been helping the Queenslanders just try and keep up. And the South Australians, the South Australian market is going like the clappers. It really, really is. Like, wow. For example, one office down there, Greggy Nybo and the gang, they're just pulling out some massive numbers down there in South Australia, which has been so cool to see, I have to say. So it's been awesome to actually really dig deep into how these different operations are going in different states. And it's interesting to hear how each state perceives the other states in terms of how they operate, how they function, how professional they are, all the rest of it. And it's been lots of fun actually exposing some of the states for the good and the bad of what they do. So, for example, Melbourne, we are seen as the auction capital, and loads of people have said to us that we are seen as one of the most advanced states in the country or in Australasia when it comes to how we operate and all the rest of it. And I've been saying to some people, honestly, gang, that couldn't be further from the truth in some cases. I mean, we're like the only state that doesn't do registered bidders, for example. We're still cowboy in that regard. And so and there's loads of different little examples of how, Melbourne still has a bit to do to catch up with some of the other states. And the really big one, so this is one thing that I'm going to start talking about. I'm going to start sort of giving you my observations, right? Stuff I've noticed. One thing that I have noticed in terms of that comparison of state on state is that Melburnians, the Victorian officers, and I'm just generalizing here, so I know there's outliers one way or the other, right? So don't take anything to heart if you are one of these. But I find that Melburnian officers are generally the last ones to be really forthcoming when it comes to accepting, adopting new technology, making changes, right? They love the norm. They love the way that it's been more than any other state, in my opinion. You put that in contrast with the likes of, I'll tell you what, the Kiwis. You give them something new, they'll go play with it like there's no tomorrow. And it's amazing to watch the Kiwis do that. And same with the Queenslanders. I find that Queenslanders are really cool when it comes to just giving stuff a go. Sydney siders, I feel that, it was hilarious when they were started panicking about a lockdown. And then when we asked them, like, shit, what do we need to do? What do we need to put in place? What do we need to bring forward? How do we need to educate? And it turns out the only thing they can't do is on-site auctions, pretty much, and open for inspections. So many other states don't even realize that that's the case, right? That Sydney have been able to still do private inspections, both rental and sales, on a one-on-one basis. So they've been able to still rock and roll. And that's one of the reasons why they've accepted and done really, really well with the online auction space, a lot more than Melbourne, is because of the fact that they've been able to do physical inspections still, which has then allowed them to get that emotional engagement from purchasers a lot better, right? So, but in terms of other stuff, like Rita, for example, I've been working with Rita, the AI platform, really quite extensively. And gang, look, I don't get paid by them. I love them as a crew, but I don't get paid by them. I don't get paid to endorse them in any way, shape, or form. But if you haven't got Rita in your business, you need your head looking at. You really, really do. It's just something that it should be a must, if you ask me. And we've been really successful in rolling it out to a hell of a lot of offices across the networks that I've been working with. And it's just a game changer. Like, whoever hasn't got that in their system and in their game, you're losing, essentially. So I would highly recommend that you have a look at that if you haven't. So that's another thing that I've seen. Something else that I've seen recently has been, I'm going to say COVID this once. A lot of people have been using COVID as an excuse to do fuck all, right? And to bitch and moan and be a martyr. Can you stop, please? Because the thing is, and this is where we've got to be very, 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 very careful. And this is particularly aimed at those who do have a lot of people that follow them, that hang off their words and hang off what they have to say about stuff. And I'm using, this whole COVID commentary as an example, but I had a bit of a comfortable debate with someone in the property management space about something very similar. If you are someone that has got a few people following you and you have got some sphere of influence, you guys and you humans have got to be very, very careful about the responsibility that you have upon the language that you use. It's something that it's a fine line between bringing people to task on it and censoring people, because ultimately everybody has an opinion. And like I said, I don't give a shit what your opinion is. Like, you form your own opinions, right? That's totally cool by me. I'm not going to judge you on an opinion. I'm just going to judge you whether you're a dickhead or not. If you're cool, you're cool. If you're not, you're not. Arseholes come in all shapes and sizes, right? But we need to be aware. We need to be more aware than what I feel some of our influencers, our leaders in our space are right now. Because if we bitch and moan and whinge and keep beating that drum of, God damn the government and all this sort of bollocks, then all we're going to do is influence a lot of people underneath us to do exactly the same. And as a result, take their focus away from what it is that they should be doing. Now, do I think that we should be all happy clappy and we'll get there, gang, and all that sort of bollocks? No, but there needs to be a stronger degree of practicality towards the emotional intelligence that we're currently showing or not showing right now. That's the thing with social media. If you are wanting to position yourself, if you are already in a position of influence, you have to understand that with, I don't want to sound real cheesy here, but with any form of power comes a degree of responsibility. And we've got to understand that. And we have to appreciate that. And we have to accept it for what it is. Because ultimately, those of us that went for that sort of position within the real estate community, we went for that. So we've got to accept that sometimes discretion is the greater part of valor. And sometimes, we need to like show people a more productive and more practical path that isn't just bitching and moaning about vaccinations or lockdowns or any of that sort of bollocks everybody already knows about. Okay, so that's my 2 cents. Like, that is something that I've seen, that we do need to be a lot more acutely aware as leaders in this space, right? And even if you don't know if you're a leader or not, you just got to look at yourself. Like, if you own a business, if you run a business, I'm not saying that you can't have a right to an opinion, but what I am saying is, like, and it's very, very common, like, because this talk's been going around about how it's influencing your consumers. But we need to think about how it's affecting our teams as well. And it sort of goes into that point that Maxine made. Like, she's made a change because she needed to feel a bit more, not maybe appreciated, but a little bit more looked after. Us beating the drum and bitching about the government and stuff ain't doing that, right? So hopefully I'm bringing that to some people's awareness. It is pointed directly at the people that are in positions of influence and leaders and whatnot. Just be aware of how you are influencing those that do hang off your word, that do follow you, that do like all your content and all the rest of it, and understand that that degree of sarcasm or negativity or whatever the case may be could be influenced them into a real dark space mentally, and you don't realize it. But that's the responsibility that you've got, and that comes with the job, comes with the territory of being a leader. All right. So we've had a couple of comments come through. Authenticity always. You're amazing. Oh, bless you, Sarah. I love you. Thank you very much for that. Cameron, Andy, now that I've transferred from agency to being a self-employed buyer's agent, what are some tips for buyers at online auctions? Also, some other BAs are saying that they can't watch online auctions as the agency is only giving access to registered bidders. What are your thoughts on this? As I reckon if someone wants to take the time to watch an online auction, they're either ready to go or nearly ready, and the agencies can gather their info and follow them up. Right, let's have a chat about these online auctions. Right, I've got a few things to talk about around these online auctions. Okay, are they any good? How are they helping or hindering agencies, agents, brands, reputations? Because that's one thing that we need to talk about. We need to break that down a little bit. We also need to talk about how it's affecting buyers. We also, and that ties in with what Cam just said there. Accessibility to some of this. How do we play that? So I'll give you my 2 cents. There are some people that are doing an incredible job of the online auction space, I have to say, right? There are some absolute Monties that are doing such a good job. I mean, I've got to tip my cap to, Robbie Osimo, Tony Lombardi and that crew there with regards to how they've got their team revved up and into it right from last year, right? But as well as that, just from an independent auctioneering point of view, especially up in New South Wales, I think Matt Shalub and the team at Under the Hammer have done an extremely good job of supporting their agents with that. Stewie Benson is another one. Leon Axford, Clarence White, they've done incredible jobs at supporting their agents and their agencies. Coolies, Damien Cooley and the gang there, they've done a tremendous job as well. In terms of helping them with technology and all that sort of jazz. They've done a really cool job. But we've got to be really careful. I say we've got to be really careful. That's sort of stating the obvious. But my 2 cents on online auctions are, firstly, are they any good? They can be, but there's a couple of little caveats on that. So the first thing that I would say about online auctions is this really, really big point that's really important, is that the window of emotional engagement closes really quickly. Really, really quickly. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, when it comes to that emotional level of engagement, when we're comparing on-site to online, when you're on-site and you've got that aura, you're feeding off people's aura and people's energies and all that sort of jazz, and you can sort of really sort of hook into them and have them hook into you a lot easier and really keep a hold of them for a lot longer, right? Because they're in your presence, you're in their presence. There's that physicality component to it that comes with being on site, right? So you can drag that emotional engagement out that little bit further while decisions are getting made, strategies are getting played out, and all the rest of it. Online, that window of opportunity is way shorter, way shorter. Why? Well, partly because all a buyer needs to do is just press off, and they are away. They are disconnected from the auction, right? So that's one reason of a number of reasons as to why the emotional engagement is it's just it's a much harder thing to get a grip of. And from that, when it comes to things like reserve strategies and so on and so forth, another one is that a vendor's or seller's strategy when it comes to the online auction space, it has to be very conservative. Even in an environment like this, I find that you can't drag buyers out for too long. If we don't get them to the point where reserve is met and they know that fear of loss is very apparent, then the rate at which they will turn off is fairly insane. It's fairly quick. And as well as that, coupled with that, if you have to call a part-time break and have a chat to the vendor offline, on the phone or whatever it is, or with the agent, you're running a huge risk, a much bigger risk of having a whole stack of your audience just disappear and dissipate. Okay, so, can an online auction work? It absolutely can, but it needs to be with the awareness of the fact that your reserve strategy needs to be conservative, even in a hot market like this. Your communication strategy needs to be as crystal clear as it can humanly be, both with sellers and with purchasers. So, for example, one thing that I've been suggesting to all of our vendors with Sold By the Auction Biz is set up a group chat either on WhatsApp or whatever, so that you can press one button and directly communicate to both seller and auctioneer, right? So that the speed of communication is very, very clear, very concise. With the purchasers, the really big thing for me that, again, I've been trying to help a lot of agents get through is you've got to treat it as close to as normal auction as you normally would. The second that you try and treat it in any way different or special or whatever will heighten the anxiety of purchase and just give them another reason to not bother working on it, right? So you've got to make sure that your level of communication with the purchasers is at a level that it would be if you were doing a normal auction. I know it kind of sounds obvious, but it's something that's being cocked up time and time again, to be honest, where agents just get caught in that sort of, they get caught in that thing of just watching the show because it's watching a screen, right? You don't have the energy of an on-site auction to keep you buzzing and keep you going, and you just slip off, you just wander off. It's kind of like trying to keep hold of people's attentions on a webinar, right? The amount of times that you see them just peering down and having a look at their Facebook or whatever it is. Agents do that, right? I see it all the time, and it's not their fault necessarily. It's just the default. It's kind of like I have to suit up all the time whenever I'm doing any auctions, right? I can't do the whole suit up top, trackies on bottom, or shorts to do that comedy thing, right? I can't do that bullshit because my mind just can't compute it. I have to get myself into the right state physically, mentally, spiritually to make sure I'm smashing it to the best of my ability. With that auction, right? So I have to suit and boot the, full regalia, the full it and a bit, gavel holster on everything, because it just helps me to prime my mind into that space that gets me into that state of flow, right? So, I have to do that. And likewise for a lot of agents, and this is a bad habit to get into, is I see a lot of agents that will come online and they will be wearing, they'll be like looking like this, where they might have a smart jumper or a funky shirt or whatever, or a hoodie sometimes. But that's not getting them into the right state of mind, right? It's not getting them into that zone. So, gang, you've got to make sure that you're mentally prepared for it. Because the other thing that I've observed with online auctions is, as an auctioneer, fuck me, they're tiring. Honestly, they are so tiring as an auctioneer, way more tiring than an on-site, I find, because we've got to generate our own energy. We've got nothing to really feed off, which is really difficult at times, right? And so, and I want to talk about the auctioneering side of it and get a bit geek for a second as well in a moment, but it's knackering. Trying to keep that energy flowing and going and firing when you've got nothing, you've not got the buzz around you, it's a lot harder than a lot of people give credit for. And sometimes, in more cases than not, these auctions are going for a bit longer because we need to make sure we're trying to get everything we can for our sellers, right? And it's a little bit longer because it is a bit more of a protracted process. So jeepers, it's tiring. That's one of the reasons why it's kicked my ass into getting myself back into physical shape, because I need my brain fired. I need my brain absolutely rocking and rolling at all times. And that only happens when I'm physically fit, right? It's the same with everybody. Your physical is connected to your mind and your brain and all that, obviously. So I've got to make sure I'm on point. I've got 6 online auctions this week and I need to make sure I'm on, right? So that's what I've got to say about online auction space. In terms of transparency and accessibility and whatnot, I understand why agents wouldn't be letting certain people in unless they're a registered bidder. But at the same time, because of the fact that they just want to make sure that it gets done right. And I've seen and I've heard of a few opposing agents that have gone on to watch and then they've bagged the shit out of them and all that sort of unwanted bollocks in the industry that can happen, unfortunately. So I can understand why they are a bit more protective about it, Cam. But at the same time, if you make it abundantly clear that I'm watching with a view to potentially putting some action on it, should it be passed in, then you can register yourself as a bidder. I asked to register yourself as a bidder. I don't see that as an issue as long as you're transparent and upfront about it. I had a couple of different people at a couple of the auctions that I did on the weekend, actually, that were either onlookers or agents that had come and asked me, and I'd said, look, as long as you do the right thing, you play it with a straight bat, all the rest of it. So as long as I trusted them, then I was cool with that. But yeah, I can understand their point of view with that. Sam, let's have a chat, mate. No obligation at all, but asking a selling agent or auctioneer for bidding tips won't cut it. Quite simply, they don't do it. What? What does that mean? I'll give buyers bidding tips every day of the week. It makes it more challenging for me, which I enjoy. If it was easy, it'd be fucking boring. I want it to be a challenge. Right? I want the action. There's nothing I love seeing a buyer's advocate come to an auction to bid. I love it because it means that I get to sharpen my teeth and and have some fun from a professional point of view. Really sort of have a go at another professional and, really give it some, right? I love it. I absolutely love it. In terms of tips, I'll give some tips. I'm more than happy to. In terms of tips for buyers, one observation that I've made from a buyer's point of view is I know that the standard tactics with auctions is to wait until the last minute and then put your bid in and hope the best. Bid in Andy in response to right, sorry with you. One thing I have noticed is that the process or the thought process around waiting until the last minute to make a bid, in terms of the effect that you want to have on an auction as a buyer, is very different online, in the sense that I actually find the bidders that bid quick are the ones that really put the fear of God into everybody else. If they do things without any hesitation whatsoever, it really does put the frighteners. I feel it a little bit where I'm like, oh, geez, that was a bit sharp. And it's kind of opposite to one side. This is my personal opinion, in that if you really want to make a hammer and tongs statement, doing it nice and fast on site might not be as productive as dragging it out a little bit, then waiting for that last minute to come and crack on. And I get that. But online, I feel that the quicker that you react to anybody's bid, the more that it puts them on the back foot in a big way. That's my personal thoughts and observations on that. And I saw it happen on the weekend, where there was one buyer that was like almost had the next number already typed in just in case someone else bid, and then just went bang, and the next one was straight in, and it did eventually grind down the opposing bidder to the point where they gave up. So that would probably be my advice with online auctions from a bidding point of view, is that by observation, just from the emotional response that it invokes in me, as an auctioneer and as an observer, is quicker is better online as opposed to on site, which where timing is a little bit more acute in that regard. That's my personal point on that as well. Loud voice too, absolutely. But one thing that I have seen is so many bidders really shy when it comes to coming and yakking and chatting and whatnot. Lots and lots of bidders bid via chat functions on Zoom, or if it's in anywhere auctions, anywhere auctions, they just bid via the app and the numbers come up and whatnot, right? So, I personally am a huge. One of the reasons why I partnered with Anywhere Auctions is because I am genuinely a big fan of how robust their platform is now. They've done so much work over the last couple of years, and I've been watching them for a long time. And I met them right at the very beginning, and at the time I really wasn't sure. But now, Gary Rangan and the team, they've done an unbelievable job. They've done an incredible job in my humble opinion. So yeah, check them out if you are looking at maybe bringing a formal online auction platform to your game. Check them out, because they've got the complete thing. They do the contract signing, all that sort of stuff, takes care of it all for you, which is wicked. Rob Osimo, there he is, mate. I was giving you a big pump up before you joined. So if you'd have joined on time, mate, then you'd have got a little bit of a rev up on your behalf, mate, because I was singing your praises earlier. Online auctions, yes, they absolutely can work just as well if run correctly, but they do need to be run correctly. And there are some certain nuances that I find are being cocked up because of either ignorance or lack of asking questions or whatnot. Now, one thing that I do want to say about it is this. Now, I will never profess to be in the finished article. There is no such thing as the finished article in anything in life, let alone wafting the gavel around, right? But one thing that I absolutely will say, and I did a post about it. Was it yesterday? But I wanted to talk about it a little bit. And this is me indulging in my passion for the craft of auctioneering a little bit. Online auctions are exposing the good and the bad for what they are, right? And what I mean by that is good auctioneers are being exposed as being really, really good auctioneers in this online environment because, I mean, there's nowhere to hide anyway on site or online, but it's way more binary online because we haven't got the aura, we haven't got the bravado to sort of feed off in an online space, right? So the craft of auctioneering is really getting tested with these online auctions. And I, for one, have seen far too many bad auctioneers getting exposed, right? A lot of them, a hell of a lot of them. And I just hope that some of these auctioneers that are doing some of these online auctions, whether it sells or not, I really hope to God that they are going back and having a bit of a watch because God, there are some bad ones. There are some shit auctioneers at the minute doing some online auctions, and I've got make no bones about it. Like I don't give a shit. I'm not going to name names or anything because I'm not going to be that crude about it. But those auctioneers that are doing these online things and are doing nothing except repeating numbers, and there are one or two franchise groups, brands that drill their auctioneers into doing things a very, very particular way, and far out it's exposing them so badly. I'm hoping after some of these online auctions that some of these auctioneers will start taking the craft a little bit more seriously, because the problem is because you haven't got things to do and things to see and distractions and all that sort of stuff. It's just you and a camera, right? So it's kind of like almost like doing an auction in the buff, and you got nowhere to hide. It's warts and all type calling, right? And for some, it's really not attractive. It's really not. Just calling numbers all the time, just like hammering numbers and thinking that that's helping the process is just bollocks, right? But as well as that, the really top draw auctioneers are understanding the differences that they need to bring to their craft with an online auction around volume, around tonality, around depth, right? So, having the auctioneer starting out here, but then getting a little bit closer if you want to really sort of hit home or point to someone. Those three elements, volume, tone, and depth from the camera, are really, for me, the only three big plays that we've got as auctioneers in this online space. If we really want to try and whip up that real storm of emotional engagement, then we need to make sure that we are having a bit more of a focus on the volume at which we go, because just shouting at the screen for half an hour is not the way to go. Just having the same tone, which is what so many auctioneers are cocking up on right now, is definitely not the way to go. But the depth thing is just like it's like a little secret sort of win for us if we use it properly, right? So if we get into the needle end of things, and I've used this a few times when we're struggling to get bids in the first place, I'll come right up close to the camera and go, hey guys, I don't know if you've seen the market, right? But come on, you know as well as I do that this thing is just bananas. Like, how impossible is it to buy a house? And creating a degree of personalization, really trying to talk to those humans on the other side of those cameras is really critical. If you get that depth game right, I think that can be a real win in the online auctioneering space. I really, really do. When it comes to another thing is, for the love of God, please actually look at the camera when you're doing the auction. Don't look over it up here or down there. or down here, or, you know, or just off to the side, right? God, that shits me. That really shits me when you're not looking at the camera. Because the thing is, if you're not looking at the camera, you're not making any contact, any eye contact from a digital point of view with any of these purchases. It makes it almost mission impossible to create any level of engagement and connection with them. You can appeal to a buyer one-on-one by approaching the camera for sure. Yeah, absolutely. But the eye contact thing is imperative with online auctions. You've got to do it. I know if you've got, say, the camera's just up here, right, for example, and your screen's down here, and you're trying to sort of lovely bit of networking going on in the comment section, by the way, Cam and Sam. Love that. Absolutely think that's amazing. If your camera's up here but all your players that you're trying to keep an eye on the Zoom or whatever it is that you're using is down here, it's really difficult to not keep watching the screen. But when you're communicating, gang, you've got to do everything in your power to create those connections, because otherwise there's no point in you getting paid as an auctioneer in the online space. There's no point. No, zero. I mean, you could say, oh, but then, you know, we need to know the legislation still and blah, 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 blah. Come on, man. IQ is binary. Anybody can learn this shit. It's the EQ. It's the craft of what we do as auctioneers. It's really, really critical. I feel I would like to sort of maybe try and create a bit more noise around the need for just a bit more focus on your craft and the nuances and the slight changes that you need to adjust in order to become that much more effective as an auctioneer in the online space. Because far out, there's some shit kicking around at the minute. There is some absolute dross at this point in time. And it's kind of like I did a little TikTok-y thing, right? So I'm on TikTok, and I don't know why, but my PR person said that I need to do it. And I'm trying to get my head around TikTok. I did put one post on it that one of the Kiwis sort of picked up on as a good thing. A lot of auctioneers at the minute are just acting like it's a drill to the side of your head, and they're just shouting numbers in the hope that that's gonna, you know, if they shout the number once and they say $650,000, looking for 650 now, 650 is the number. Like, we're at 600, calling for 670. That's a $20,000 rise. 650, we're calling for 20,000 to take us to 670. 670 is like, fuck me, honestly, God. Please, gang, sort your game out, please. I'm joking, Lise, right? TikTok. I'm joking. Like, God, gang, please get your shit sorted with this. The thing is, we have to have the down pat when we're doing it. Why? Because even if you've got a screen behind you doing a bit of a carousel of the pictures or whatever the case may be, it's still not going to keep them emotionally engaged in terms of the property, right? So the art of the resell is so critical, and being able to park the number in your mind so you can resell and then go back to the number is a really, really critical piece to the craft of auctioneering, especially online, well, it is anyway, but especially online, because you have to do a lot more reselling with the online auctions, right? But God, don't just keep repeating the number, or don't just keep going ABC. And for those auctioneers that have done any level of training, they'll know what ABC means. A is the number you're at, B is the increment, C is the number you want to get to. Don't just keep repeating that. Don't. It's just showing you for being a one-dimensional auctioneer, really one-dimensional. And you can say the number as many different times as you want, but you're still just saying a number. So it's exposing the good ones is really good, and the bad ones is fucking horrendous. And please, any auctioneer, you should always be, you know, reviewing your performance and whatnot and seeing what you could have done better in certain situations. I do it every single weekend because I'm a fucking geek. But I implore all auctioneers to do that. None of us have finished the article, but online, far out, it's exposing some seriously weak ones. And these are auctioneers that are out there every single weekend on site, right? Calling auctions. And because it's on site, they kind of half get away with it because they just go through the process. They don't add any value to the process, but they do. They make sure that they tick the boxes that are required to complete a legal auction. But online, you're getting found out in a big way. I'd love to name brands, but I'm not going to be that much of a prick. Because fuck, there's some shit ones. So anyway, team, that's my 2 cents on the online auction space. Can it work? 100%. Have you got to have your process down pat, particularly from a communication point of view? Like, I mean, you do in any sort of campaign, whether it's private sale, auction, on site, online, whatever. But again, if you're getting caught out a little bit, you've got to really get that down pat. Now, will it exist down the track? Interesting conversation I had with Matt Shalub up in New South Wales. He's actually hearing a lot of his agents that might actually stick to just online auctions, right? Even when on sites take place. A lot of the agents up in New South Wales are finding it to be just as effective, to the point where they don't want to waste like an hour and a half of their time on a Saturday that they could be spending taking inspections and whatnot, and doing lots and lots of more hunting, shall we say, and then leaving the online auction to like a midweek or something, just calling online auctions midweek through the week. I'm seeing, and I'm hearing a bit of that as well. But in New South Wales, that is really becoming a topic. Do we stick with online auctions even when the on-site stuff comes back in? Interesting. Like I said, I think Melbourne, and I personally just from a purist point of view, love on-sites. I'll always prefer an on-site to an online, but they can still work. The auctioneer needs to be a lot more acute as to their strategy and their tactics and their craft on the online space. And agents, they can work for you just as well if you want to create greater efficiency with your time. That can be very beneficial. Now, I have been a huge advocate. I've been saying this for a couple of years already, but we need to make sure that we're utilizing everything when on to open back up. Because the tech is that damn easy to just put into an online auction, put an online auction as part of an on-site one, and having a hybrid thing. Like, that's been around for yonks for years, like whether, through different auction platforms and whatnot, right? But for me, I'd be making it almost mandatory for all of my auctions. I would be highly encouraging that you take up an Anywhere Auctions platform and have that available every single auction, to be honest, because if you do that, then you're giving buyers no excuse to not have a go. How many buyers say, "Oh, look, I can't make it on Saturday"? Well, you can now. You can now. There you go. Crack on. See you there digitally. Mr. Holmes, my God, the gentleman, the James Bond of Queensland auctioneering, has graced us with his presence. Got to run them hand in hand with on-site. The appetite to be outside and experiencing the property will be massive. Couldn't agree more, my friend. David Holmes, by the way, who is part of the Coolies gang, but based up in Queensland, and has just won the REIQ Senior Auctioneer of the Year. So congratulations to you, David, mate. That's massive effort. Big tip of the cap to you, sir. That is incredible. Well done. Very, very well done. That's awesome. We need to stop calling them hybrids as well, right? We need to just have it as a part of an auction. If you want to be a true professional auction outfit, you need to have the ability to have bidders on site and off site at all times. At all times. You really do. If you're insisting that your buyers be there on site, again, it's just a barrier to entry. It's all about removing as many of those barriers to entry as is humanly possible. So, I know that, so I've been chatting to Sabine at Barney Before You Bid, right? Top chick, by the way, amazing human being. And, their crew is, doing building and pest inspections before auctions and all that sort of stuff, because it helps to remove barriers to entry for purchasers to give shit a crack. And I, for one, I'm all for anything that can help with that. So, we need to stop calling them hybrids. It needs just to be part of a standard professional auction process, is the ability to bid online as well as on site. Just it's just too easy to not do. And it's fucking lazy if you don't do it, to be perfectly honest. Right? I just think it's just damn lazy. It's so easy. I mean, like the Anywhere auctions ones that I've done recently, this one reason I'm really giving it a nudge is I'm controlling the whole thing from my iPad while I'm doing the call. It's that bloody easy to use. I don't need an agent to press buttons and shit. Right now, when I'm on site, I probably will have an agent that will get to do all that sort of stuff, just because I'll be a bit more, elaborate. But while I'm doing online stuff, me having the iPad there, I'm sweet with it. It's that easy, man. So, team, it needs to be just part of a professional auctioneering outfit to have an online auction capacity, online bidding capacity at every single auction. Just should be happening. End of. But I'm just going to say it one more time. I promise I won't keep being. I'll just say it one more time. Auctioneers, sort your craft out. All right, because the shit ones amongst you are being exposed badly with this online stuff, like really badly, for being so one-dimensional, not giving a shit about the craft, just getting it done because you're ticking boxes. It's no good. You're not bringing any value whatsoever to the call. And look, it's all well and good like doing it now because it's easy and like you can get bids for fun, right? It's like shooting fish in a barrel, right? But when the market changes, and it will change, it always does, you're going to get found out something rotten. Okay, so sort your craft out, pay a bit more attention to it because you're getting found out. All right, anyway, gang, I've rabbited on for 55 fucking minutes. I do apologize. I hope for those that you've watched me the whole way through that it's been of some degree of value. If for nothing else, I've brought you a bit of that reedy energy that a number of you have been asking me to bring back. All right, so team, I hope that this has been enjoyable in some way, shape, or form. I hope you found some of it useful in some way, shape, or form. I'm going to be here, and I've made the commitment, Monday, Wednesday, Friday evenings at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So that's 11 p.m. in New Zealand. So I know it's a little bit late for the Kiwis. 7 p.m. over in Western Australia. Team, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be answering questions. I'm going to be doing interviews. So I'm going to set up from next week. We're going to start setting up. One of the sessions is always going to be an interview with someone really cool that we're going to talk about various bits and bobs. And the other really exciting piece is we're going to convert some of this to potentially convert this to a bit of a podcast as well. So some super exciting stuff, which hopefully will help to give you that bit of a buzz of energy, right? If nothing else, gang, if nothing else, I can give you that little bit of fire that makes you just get up off the couch or just peel yourself out of that monotony of Groundhog Day if you're in Melbourne or if you're in Sydney. But also for you, those of you that are in like fifth gear and really fucking spinning them wheels and struggling to keep up, hopefully I can help give you guys a little bit of respite as well and understand that everybody has someone here that they can always lean on at any time. All right. So team, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you so much for everybody that's commented. Thank you so much for everybody that's accepted me for who I really am, because this is a lot more closer to the mark, I've got to say. And team, just please look after and love each other as much as you possibly can, right? Because there's still a lot of people and a lot of stress all over the country, whether it's because you're locked down or whether it's because your hair on fire and you're struggling to keep up and you can't get the recruits, which is a massive, massive issue for those states that are going like the clappers right now. So whatever level of stress you're in, just make sure you spend a bit of time to be appreciative of what you've got, what you have, what you've got around you, who you've got around you. But gang, most importantly, stay safe, stay healthy. Most importantly, stay happy. All right, team. Love you. Take care. All right. We'll see you Friday night, 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Take it easy. Professional human out.